My name's Thomas Emanuel. I'm a Senior Director at STR, a CoStar Group company, and I'm responsible for driving our business with industry partners across Europe. So if we look at demand across Europe, it's in a pretty good spot. We saw growth last year. Occupancies went up 2% across the continent as a whole, and average rates continued to move upwards as well off the back of what we've seen post the pandemic recovery, which has been really significant rate growth. So the market, I think, is doing well. As I say, we've got good news coming from midweek demand, for example, with more and more corporate customers coming back to stay in hotels. Obviously, leisure came back a lot more quickly post the pandemic. We're seeing group demand recover. We've got increased visitation from Asia Pacific, particularly China as well. So a more varied demand base as well geographically. And events have played a huge part for the European hotel industry certainly in the last 12 months. 2024 was a fantastic year for events across Europe. We had the Olympics, we had the European Championships, we had Taylor Swift concerts, which drove enormous amounts of demand into the market. So overall, I feel very positive in terms of that, and I think we're going to continue to sell more rooms as we go forward. But what we're not going to see is the same growth trajectory we obviously saw post the recovery. I'm still expecting increases in both occupancy and rate across Europe. As a whole, obviously markets will vary as they go by, but as a whole for Europe, I believe we're in for the next few years of growth, albeit at a more muted level, low to mid single digits in terms of RevPAR increases. So the supply landscape is quite an interesting one. We do have quite a robust pipeline across Europe as a whole. The UK remains the development hotspot, 99,000 keys in the pipeline here, and then we see Germany, Spain following behind. But what's quite interesting is when you start to look at that pipeline as a percentage of existing supply, it's not actually that significant. So if we look at in construction pipeline, it's just 2.7% of existing supply across Europe as a whole. So what we do see there is not a significant amount of new supply on a pan-European basis coming in, because not all of those rooms will come to fruition. They won't all open at the same time either. So in terms of supply impacting European performance holistically, I'm not too concerned in the coming years, where of course we might see some differentials on a market level. If we take Dublin, for example, we've seen huge amounts of new supply coming into the Irish capital over the last couple of years. In the economy segment alone in Dublin, supply increased 17% in 2024. So huge amounts of new rooms coming in. So as with supply, it can always be affected on a micro level, looking at a market specifically or looking at a class within that market that will then have an impact on performance. But as I say, if we look pan-European, I think the supply picture looks pretty good from a supply-demand equilibrium. It's always great to attend industry events. I'm privileged enough to attend a lot of them, to speak at many of them as well. But it's so important for me from a networking perspective to reconnect with existing contacts, meet new contacts, develop relationships, meet new people. That's what we come here for, in conjunction, of course, with the content. So being here in London today, a great opportunity to see my existing and future contacts and learn some from some industry experts. So always good to be at events like this.